贵宾欢迎莅临投资欧盟论坛资通讯产业分论坛。5G 时代已经来临，资通讯产业是推动国家与产业发展重要的动力。因此，如何在资通讯市场抢得先机，可以说是大家都非常关切的议题。在这个场次，我们很荣幸邀请到来自欧盟5国以及台湾的代表，一同探讨资通讯产业的发展策略与前景。Distinguished guests, welcome to the EU Investment Forum 2020 ICT session. In the era of 5G, the ICT industry is the driving force for national and industrial development. And in this session, we have invited speakers from the EU and Taiwan to talk about the prospects and the development strategies for the ICT. 活动一开始，首先让我们邀请这个场次的主持人，台湾区电机电子工业同业工会李诗清理事长上台致辞。First of all, please welcome our moderator, Mr. Richard Lee, Chairman of Taiwan Electrical and Electronic Manufacturers Association, TEMA, to give us the introductory remarks. 掌声欢迎。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let's say hi and good morning to those participating from through WebEx from Europe. We see that Mrs. Becky Young. I hope I spelled Mrs. Becky Young. Becky Young. Say hi, say good morning to her.
Good morning.
My name is Richard Lee, Chairman of Taiwan Electrical and Electronic Manufacturers Association, abbreviated TEMA, T-E-E-M-A. TEMA was founded 72 years ago in 1948. With more than 3,000 member companies, we basically represent all the electrical and electronics manufacturers in Taiwan. In fact, the total Taiwan ICT industry. The total revenues of Taiwan ICT industry account for about 1/2 of Taiwan's industrial output, as well as about 1/2 of Taiwan's export. The EU Investment Forum is the first event organized by EETO, the European Economic and Trade Office, with a great significance to the Taiwan-EU relation. Through the years, Taiwan and the EU have a solid and healthy trade and economic relationship. 2019, last year, Taiwan is the EU's 15th largest trading partner and the 5th largest in Asia. However, most significantly, the EU is Taiwan's fourth largest trading partner. The total bilateral trade grew about 10% in 2019, reaching a total of 50.5 billion euros. The investment, which is even much more significantly, the EU is the largest foreign investor to Taiwan, representing over 25% of Taiwan's total foreign direct investments. The industry of ICT, the ICT industry, is Taiwan's largest manufacturing industry. IC, integrated circuits, and electronic components accounted for 20.7% of all the EU's imports from Taiwan last year. Many of Taiwanese leading ICT companies have already invested in the EU through establishing manufacturing bases and or opening business branches. The EU and Taiwan share many common values and work closely together in areas ranging from human rights protections, fight against climate changes, science and technology cooperation, education and cultural exchange. The EU investment forums organized by ETTO. ETTO was established in 2003 as the EU's office in Taiwan. 15 of the EU's 27 member states have also established their own representative offices in Taipei. 5 of 15 are presented in the ICT panel. They are France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Poland, and Sweden. ICT panel includes the 5 speakers from the 5 member states, as I just mentioned. And they are going to share with us the ICT development strategies of their respective countries. Then one Taiwan speaker will share his experience in the EU. After that, we will have a panel discussion. After the panel discussion, we welcome questions from audience. Once again, welcome you all to EU Investment Forum ICT panel. Thank you.
谢谢李理事长，请回座。Thank you very much. Please return to your seat. 对台湾企业而言，如果想要成功进军欧盟的资通讯产业，一定要充分了解各国的发展政策，才能够找到合适的市场，完成布局。接下来，诚如刚才理事长所说，我们将邀请来自欧盟会员国的代表，一一介绍欧盟会员国资通讯产业的发展策略。If Taiwanese companies would like to enter the ICT industry in the EU, it is vital to understand the respective development strategies of the EU member states so that they're able to find the right market. And next, we're going to invite the speakers from the EU to talk about the ICT development strategies in their respective countries. 首先，就让我们邀请来自法国的讲者 Veronique Pequinot， 他会透过视讯来跟我们分享的主题是法国矽谷和欧洲资通讯聚落联盟的跨国机会。Our first speaker is Ms. Veronique Pequinot, Director of International Actions Invest in Grenoble Alpes Metropole, France. Her topic is transnational opportunities with the French Silicon Valley and the European ICT Cluster Alliance, and she will join us virtually. Please welcome Ms. Pequinot.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronique Pequinot, and I'm very honored to be able to represent my region and explain how digital opportunities are arising here in conjunction with European strategies and priorities. First, let me give you a few key figures about France, which is not only about luxury goods and art de vivre, but has also managed to rise up as a top nation for technologies, startups, and innovation in the past years. And I'm sure all of you are aware of what's happening, for example, with the French tech. The focus here is going to be about a rather modest-sized city at the heart of the French Alps, located within easy reach of major urban cities, but which has been able to gain quite a reputation as the French Silicon Valley. Let me give you here just a few facts and figures that illustrate how historically digital technologies have been part of Grenoble DNA. And this is why, as I said, we are often labeled as the French Silicon Valley. And what makes it so special here is that you have a unique combination of hardware technologies and stakeholders, whether it is about academics, research, or private industries, with software technologies and computer science. And that is really what is needed nowadays to address the technological challenges of the digital world. I would like to draw your attention to the main point of my presentation, which is how our regional ecosystem fits into and implements a national digital strategy and how this is translated locally. And this, of course, always in conjunction with European priorities. These strategic priorities have been going on for quite a few years and, of course, have been amended and supplemented with the current post-COVID stimulus package. So that entails dedicated first-class research and technology campuses, regional industry clusters, lifelong tech digital communities, international collaboration with a solid European footprint, foresee and prepare the technologies for the next decades, and of course, enable resiliency, economic and environmental sustainability. The main campus in Grenoble dedicated to micro and nanotechnologies and gathering industry research and education is called Minatech, and many of you might have visited here. It can be compared to what's going on with the ICT in Taiwan, and this is definitely a long-term initiative and is also part of a greater campus in Grenoble called Giant. The other strategic arm of the digital policy in our region is the industrial cluster Minalogique. Minalogique is a not-for-profit organization gathering members from the industry, corporations, SMEs, and startups, academia, research organizations, and local government, as well as finance bodies. The spectrum of the topics being addressed ranges from semiconductors to digital content and software, including photonics, as well as integrators and application enablers. There's one particular achievement and ongoing collaboration on a European level with the cluster Minalogique, which we are honestly very happy and proud of. It is an inter-cluster collaboration across Europe with other regions with a strong ecosystem in electronics. The former collaboration, called Silicon Europe, started in 2012 and has managed to keep very strong and to sustain several further projects. It started between Minalogique in Grenoble, Silicon Saxony in Germany, DSP Valley in Belgium, High Tech NL in the Netherlands, and was then enlarged to have other countries such as Italy or Spain or Great Britain. Since then, we have monthly video meetings, biannual physical events, common European projects, and there's also one particular example that I've included in my slide, which is a common open innovation day with one big corporation on a European level. What it means is that we have a big corporation with an open innovation strategy and agenda, which relies on Silicon Europe to organize a day of B2B meetings between suppliers and solutions and the different business units of the group looking for solutions. The participants are carefully selected according to the group criteria, and the results are extremely positive, ranging around 30% of business deals after the event. This slide shows another very important axis of the French strategy aiming at fostering tomorrow's digital champions. France has selected several communities across the country and overseas with a view to bridge the gap between seed series stage and unicorns. The local community in Grenoble is called French Tech in the Alps and has very close connections with the French tech community in Taiwan, with a soft landing program between the entrepreneurs of both ecosystems. With a view to the future, the French government has identified several key technologies in the digital sector, ranging from edge computing, IoT, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, big data, quantum computing. And I have to say that the Grenoble-Alpes digital ecosystem ticks all the boxes. We have one of the 4 artificial intelligence institutes in France, and also we are part of the 3 quantum computing national centers that have been identified with the French government. I'd like also to point out one particular topic which is of the utmost importance, which is digital ethics, which is really about making sure everyone is included in the digital advances, whether it's from the social perspective or also for sustainability and ensuring that digital technologies are energy frugal as well. And finally, last but not least, I'd like to talk about the newly presented stimulus package in France, which relies on the historic agreement in Europe of almost 800 billion euros, with 40 billion of incentives dedicated for France. And in France, this means over 100 billion euros with three major axes. 1/3 of the programs are going to be dedicated to environment and energy transition. Another third is going to be about making sure our industry stays innovative and competitive. And then 1/3 is going to go to cohesion and territorial and social innovation. And that means making sure nobody is actually left on the side with this digital progress. And also one very important point is making sure that this digital strategy means self-sustainability, whether it is in AI, cloud computing, cybersecurity, quantum technologies, digital health, innovative therapeutics, fight against infectious diseases, education technologies, culture and creative industries, as well as spatial, and all of this leveraging the social and local forces with flexible and collaborative financial tools. So this is at the end of my presentation. I was very happy to present you this slide deck about what's happening in the French Alps, and also showing that the French Alps is always connected to what's happening in Europe as well as in Asia, and particularly Taiwan. I wish I were there with you guys, as it's really one of my favorite destinations, and I do hope that next edition will be with everyone present. In the meantime, you can also reach out to our representative in Taiwan, Pascal Viau, and he'll be very happy to answer to all your questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pakunat, for your sharing. 那接下来呢，我们下一位讲者是来自卢森堡的 David Foy， 他是 Lux Innovation 国际业务发展数位经济的负责人，他也是透过线上的方式来跟我们分享这个主题呢，是卢森堡的数位创新策略和可靠的数据中心。Our next speaker is Mr. David Foy, Head of International Business Development Digital Economy at Lux Innovation, Luxembourg. He will talk about Luxembourg's digital innovation strategy and trusted data hub, and he will join us virtually. Please welcome Mr. Foy.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is David Foy, and it's an honor to be speaking to you today, albeit remotely, thanks to some of the technologies that we will be addressing. Hopefully, we will have the pleasure of all being present in person in the coming editions. Today, I would like to introduce Luxembourg's digital innovation strategy, how it aligns with the EU data economy investments, and our ambitions to become a trusted data hub within Europe. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the size and demographics of Luxembourg, with a population of just over 600,000 and the size of 2,500 square kilometers. Around 70% of the workforce is made up of foreigners, with 200,000 cross-border workers. Luxembourg has also to continually diversify, as this slide demonstrates throughout the decades. This is done thanks to a solid strategy and investment in infrastructure and talent. Diversification is the key to the success of any economy, and our data-driven innovation strategy is also our path to a sustainable growth. In this slide, we can see the 5 points of the European Commission data economy investment landscape and the budget that has been allocated to each subject. What I will try to do today is give a quick overview of how the Luxembourg Digital Innovation Strategy maps to each of these points and give some examples of initiatives or projects that are active today. A high-level visualization of the Digital Innovation Strategy can be broken down into 3 distinct pillars. The first is boosting and assuring the digital infrastructure capacity. Over the last years, there have been massive investments to ensure that world-class infrastructure is available from which companies can execute their services. Today, Luxembourg boasts 40% of the European capacity in Tier 4 data centers, Tier 4 being the highest guarantee of security and reliability, all fed by green energy. High capacity and low latency connectivity enables businesses to perform internationally, even from home, with a national project of fiber to the home near completion. The second pillar is to ensure a strong regulatory, IP and financing environment. Often we see regulations slowing down innovation. In Luxembourg, we are very happy to have ministers who understand not only the business, but also the technologies, and so use regulation as a stimulus to innovation. Examples are the data reversal framework, digital data embassies, or the upcoming framework on data exchange. The third pillar addresses the adoption of digital research and technologies, which is also one of the core missions of Lux Innovation: how to support companies in their quest for innovation or digitalization, the provision of structures and access to talent to facilitate the thought process and execution of research and development projects. A concrete visualization of this can be seen here, with what we see as the priority sectors of the economy. The creation, normalization, and sharing of data is paramount to the success of any digitalization strategy. And although we see the priorities as verticals, there are many interactions where data is collated in one sector and will become an enabler in another. Some projects happening at the moment are, for example, a collaborative research project in Industry 4.0 between Goodyear, the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Economy, with the goal of building a factory of tomorrow. Another example is a digitalization project with Husky, a company active in injection molding, with both projects looking to provide a source of data back to the ecosystem to accelerate others in this space. The inauguration of a National Composite Center with the aim of fostering open innovation currently has tenants such as DuPont and again Goodyear. Projects in ecotech and mobility include the construction of an automotive research campus and the creation of a cross-border autonomous driving test bed between Luxembourg, France, and Germany. This not only allows technical trials of sensors and networking, but also addresses the issue of cross-border regulations and will also be the site of 5G testing. Due to its geographical location, logistics is also a major priority of the country, which today is the home to Cargolux, the largest European cargo airline, serving 90 destinations. A multimodal logistics platform is also key in supporting projects in digital supply chain management. A cross-sectorial example would be a startup called Molecular Plasma Group, who have devised a solution to graft antiviral and antimicrobial compounds into personal protective equipment in a fast and environmentally friendly process. Working with the Luxembourg Center for Systems Biomedicine and the composite industry, this process is also environmentally friendly as it uses little raw materials and produces very little byproduct. Space is a young yet fast-growing sector, with satellite launches and Earth observation also providing large amounts of data to the community. Again, a major part of the digital focus is on providing an environment that is conducive to digitalization, diversification, and growth. In alignment with the European Community Data Economy Investment, Luxembourg is participating in the Euro HPC supercomputer project, aimed at providing interconnected, high-performance computing nodes across member states. Luxembourg has been given the task of managing this project at a European level. A National Competence Centre for Cybersecurity, Security Made in LU, or SMILE for short, has been initiated as a private-public partnership to help not only national but international companies that face the threats related to digital business. A recent partnership between the University of Luxembourg and NVIDIA to create an artificial intelligence research laboratory is already showing great results in projects such as autonomous driving, healthcare, and Deep Learning Institute, which has trained over 140 persons to date, and can be likened to Taiwan's Ministry of Science and Technology collaboration with NVIDIA on artificial intelligence. The support of the research institutions, the investment in startups, and the success of cross-border partnerships is also a keystone in the national digital focus and programs. Innovation is a collaborative effort, and again, tools, programs, and structures have been initiated to facilitate this. The Luxembourg Digital Innovation Hub is an EU program to help companies find the right solutions at the right time. Currently, we assist companies facing the task of digitalization by providing analysis and roadmaps, and also reaching out to other European innovation hubs who might provide specific talent or technologies. I will address the research and development entities in the next slide. However, coupled to these research institutes and government grants designed to assist companies with significant financial assistance with their research projects. There are obviously strict prerequisites to qualify for these aid packages, being a Luxembourgish registered company being one of them. We have seen the importance of our research institutes in fostering innovation, and this slide shows the diversity of verticals that are addressed, from healthcare to composites. Some are addressed more as transversal topics, such as the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology on the right. Each of these structures are actively involved and open to work on projects that fit their expertise, and allocation of resources can also be coupled with a financial aid package. I briefly mentioned the startup community in Luxembourg and would like to take a moment to elaborate on that. 5 or 6 years ago, the startup scene was very limited, with very few structures and little support. Today, as you can see on this slide, that has very much changed. We have both institutional and private accelerators and incubators, with links to other hubs, both European and beyond. Several providing mentoring and coaching programs, and also linking startups to their procurement chains where possible. Each structure has its own focus or flavor of business to work with, which again allows interaction of like-minded companies and diversity in the ecosystem. You can see on the right side of the slide several events and publications, the flagship events being ICT Spring and the Arch Summit, which I would encourage you to take a look at. Our Trade and Investment Office here would be very happy to tell you more and maybe organize a presence for you. And finally, Luxembourg is known as being the European or global headquarter for many multinationals, such as eBay, Amazon, Skype, Ferrero, and many others. However, thanks to our digital innovation strategy and our proximity to key European, and of course with technology now global partners, I'd like to share some of the successful companies that started their journey in Luxembourg. Many of these companies are internationalizing and actively looking for partners, joint ventures, and of course clients. So maybe an opportunity for all of us here today. With that, I'd like to close my speech. I hope it gave an insight into our strategy and programs and how we align them with the European data economy investment landscape. Thank you all very much for your attention today, and I wish you all a very interesting forum here. Please feel free to reach out to me on the address shown on this slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foy, for your sharing. 下一位讲者是来自荷兰的 Mr. Alex Chan， 他是荷兰投资局的资深专案经理。今天他是亲临现场，要跟我们分享的主题是荷兰的资通讯环境。 Next, please welcome Mr. Alex Chan, Senior Project Manager, NFIA Netherlands, and he will join us physically and talk about ICT environment in the Netherlands. Please welcome Mr. Chan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Give me 1 second. So welcome everybody to the EU Investment Forum. My topic today is ICT environment in the Netherlands. So why invest in EU and what the Netherlands can offer in terms of the ICT environment. Thanks. Yeah. So if you don't know, Netherlands is actually very similar to Taiwan in size, actually slightly less in population. So in terms of investment, it's actually not the best market because we don't have as many people as Taiwan, but we do have a lot of similarities. Similarities being, next slide. We both are very innovative. If you can see, of the top 25 competitive countries in the world, there are 10 of them that are from the EU, okay? And Taiwan ranks number 13. So despite the size of our countries, the European countries, we're all very innovative. So the Dutch government's position on innovation is that innovative businesses can help develop solutions to major societal changes like global food security, aging population, or life-threatening disease, such as COVID-19. By developing new products, they can also gain access to new markets. Innovation boosts economic growth and creates jobs. So it's through innovation that all the country can stay, can stay competitive. Now, next slide. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret of how the Netherlands can stay innovative. It's something we call the triple helix. That's a cooperation between the government, the university, and the industries. Now, this collaboration actually came from desperation because in the 1990s, Delft actually came to bankruptcy, and also Philips laid off a lot of people. There was danger in crashing of the Dutch economy. So the important people in government, in university, and the industry leaders came together and said, let's put our minds together, put our efforts together. So this public-private partnership improved the research and innovation and made sure that companies went internationalized easily, and human capital is well utilized. So students in school, they are learning things that they can apply right away after they get off school. And industry leaders are working with school to make sure that courses are designed so that they actually will be applied afterwards. So jobs are actually guaranteed after they get out of school. And also regulations are much more friendly to the businesses. So the triple helix cooperation is actually the key to the Dutch innovation. Now, the triple helix actually started from the city of Eindhoven, which is what we call the Brainport region right now. The Brainport is actually a combination of 22 municipalities, with Eindhoven being right in the middle. Now, some of you may be familiar with the airport, Schiphol Airport. If you've ever been to Europe, there's a good chance that you've been to Schiphol Airport and the seaport of Rotterdam, where actually 30% of the imports coming into Europe goes through the port of Rotterdam. And the Brainport, that's where all the brain power come together. That's why we call it the Brainport. Next slide. So the city of Eindhoven actually was the one company town that started with Philips, which later branched out to famous international companies such as ASML, Thermo Fisher, and XP, just to name a few. Now, through collaboration, it's not just within the triple helix, but also with companies. As you know, the ASML is the leader in terms of sub 5 nanometer technology. And the president of ASML famously said, you could take apart every single component of our machine down to the last screw, but you still cannot build the same machine. Because this is an effort not by one company, but by 200 companies. Even if you can replicate, copy 200 companies, you won't be able to get them to all work together. So the key is collaboration, not just with the triple helix, but among the companies. So for the city of Eindhoven, it actually has the highest density for patent application. 40% of the patents in Netherlands is applied here. And we just mentioned these sub-nano technology of ASML. So this region has attracted a lot of Taiwanese businesses, about 60 of them. And we invite you to invest in this region to participate in this ecosystem so that you could stay at the forefront of technology. The triple helix actually does not end within Eindhoven, Brainport area. It's prevalent everywhere in Netherlands. And that's why there are over 200 companies from Taiwan that has invested in Netherlands. Not all of them are there because of research and development reasons. And some of them chose Netherlands because of our outstanding labor force. We're educated, and also the Dutch labor law is fairly flexible in terms of you don't always have to hire your employees full-time. You could hire them part-time, 1 day a week, 2 day a week, 3 day a week, that's all okay. And the Dutch is very multilingual. 94% of the Dutch speak English, and close to 80% speak a third language. So it's Dutch, English, or German, or Dutch, English, or French. So it's fairly, multilingual. Okay. And another reason that these Taiwanese companies choose Netherlands is because of our location. Logistics-wise, in this ICT age, to deliver your product effectively, that's the key. So Netherlands being, we didn't ask for this location, but we use it wisely. And DHL actually ranks Netherlands being the #1 connected country in the world. So yeah, so that's the key. So I end with you today with a message that the ICT environment in the Netherlands actually is through collaboration. And we invite you to collaborate in this ecosystem and invest in EU, invest in our neighbors. So if you want to set up in Germany, fine. France, fine, but invest with us, innovate with us, and yeah, let's go Europe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. So collaboration is the key word. 下一位要介绍的是来自波兰的 Grzegorz Słomkowski， 他是波兰投资贸易局的执行副总。那他也是透过线上的方式会跟我们分享的主题是波兰数位股资通讯的投资潜力与对创新的支持。Our next speaker is Mr. Grzegorz Słomkowski, Executive Vice President of the Polish Investment and Trade Agency, Poland. He will talk about Polish Digital Valley, investment potential in ICT, and support for innovation. And he will join us virtually. Please welcome Mr. Słomkowski.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen in Taiwan. Good afternoon, Europe. I'm the Vice President of Polish Investment and Trade Agency, and I would like to share a few remarks on possibilities to invest in Poland and especially in the ICT field. Polish Investment and Trade Agency is a company from Polish Development Fund Group, and we support all development activities and industries in Poland. There's several, as you see on the chart, there are several companies supporting different areas of development in Poland. We are responsible for investment, FDI, and trade in and out from Poland. For investment in our agency is responsible Center for Strategic Investments. Here you can see several data supporting our activity. We have over 25 years of experience in supporting investors in Poland. We completed more than 850 projects and 222 in IT and BSS project services. As regards IT BSS, we completed 39 projects. Among them is unfortunate lack of Taiwanese investors. Total investment value in IT projects exceeds 62 million euro and more than 10,000 people employed. In top sectors supported by our agency are new potential investors in BSS in number of projects, electromobility, which is the highest in value, and automotive. As we see the chart of Taiwanese investors in Poland, we completed over now 34 projects and Taiwanese companies are active in Polish market. And in whole sector is more than 3,600 employees. You see the names of the companies, which you probably know much more than I do, but among them is TPV or Acer, well-recognized companies. As regards ICT sector in Poland is one of the fastest growing sector, which contributes more than 8% to our GDP. Value is more than $19 billion and it's growing rapidly. We have the largest pool of developers in Central and Eastern Europe, which I will show in the next slide in a moment. One third of the employment in business support sector is employed of total employment from this area is employed in business support service sector, and more than 600 foreign companies operate in the field. If you see of the number of employed specialists, more than 250, it's also quite impressive. On the right down corner, you have the top 10 participants. Among them is USA and mainly European companies. I would like to underline one very strong field in Poland. I mean people. Poland is very strong in software programmers in the world. If you take the well-known rankings like HackerRank or others, we are third ranked in the best developers worldwide, first in the best Java programming, and second best in algorithms and Python, which gives us practically dominant position in the Central and Eastern Europe region. You have this on the right down corner. And Poland in total is almost the same like rest of the countries in the Central and Eastern Europe. As regards the educational system, we have very strong support for the ICT sector and also technical education. You can see from the chart that more than 49% of vocational and technical students educated in the field of technical and ICT. I would like to say something more about current trends. Our market in ICT is very fragmented. We are a source of IT designers to the many players, not only in Poland, but also outside EU and in EU. Here you can see some companies who invested very heavily in Poland, like Amazon, Intel, Samsung, TomTom, Aptiv. So they are very well recognized names, and I don't have to explain more about them. Global players invested in Poland, especially IBM, Samsung. As regards our recent project, this year has been decided about two big investments, and we are proud of this, that despite coronavirus, two big global players, Google and Microsoft, decided to invest more than 3 billion altogether US dollars in Poland. Google decided to invest 2 billion in Google Cloud region. This is the biggest investment in infrastructure of this type in Poland. This was based on also on strategic partnership with our Polish Development Fund, which also is part of the game. And Microsoft decided to invest more than 1 billion in data center in Poland. All this is possible due to the implementation of government strategy to develop digital Poland. It's so-called strategy for responsible development of Poland for the period 2020 and of course also with perspective to 2030. And it describes various areas of ICT industries, including 5G, national broadband, and cybersecurity of the Republic of Poland. I would like only say a few words about 5G, which is hot topic worldwide. In Poland, 5G network will be divided into 3 frequencies. First for commercial use in major urban cities, and second for highly populated spots like stations, airports, shopping centers. The third will be assigned later on for the other purposes. As regards financial support, I would like to mention that one of our group companies, PFR Ventures, is supporting 5 programs for innovative companies at various stages of development. And we invested as a group more than 737 million. Then you can see the names of the various startups and companies operating in the field. Which may be most interesting to you, here are the entry criteria and support given by our government for business service sector. There are some support rules for all investments, and I invite Poland to invest in all fields. And this is especially for business service sector. And you can see in 2 dimensions, depending of investment type, and in two areas as a minimum eligible cost, minimum alloyment type of processes, and also mentioned maximum support. This is given in Polish zloty. If you divide it by 4, you can have in US dollars. And of course, for the type of the business, as a business support center, center of excellence, or research and development center. For more information, please contact our agency. We can support you with all the data you may require. And favorable conditions are for research and development center status, which is given in the so-called one-stop shop, which is very straightforward procedure given by our industry of development. And if you gain this status, you have preferential conditions. But in general, you can also receive tax deductions for all research and development centers, even 2.5 times deductions of costs, or if you have IP properties, you are taxed only 5% on the corporate income tax. Here are the data of our agency. Please contact us in case of any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. 我们接下来的讲者是来自瑞典的 Vlad Monson， 他是瑞典投资主任与台湾区市场经理。今天亲临现场跟我们分享的主题是创新与合作，瑞典如何成为全球的独角兽工厂。Our next speaker is Mr. Vlad Monson, Market Manager Taiwan and Director of Trade Sweden. He will join us here physically to talk about innovation and collaboration, how Sweden became a global unicorn factory. Please welcome Mr. Monson.
Okay, good. Can you hear me? Excellent. So Chairman Lee, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this seminar, and thank you to my fellow EU colleagues for the previous presentation on the ICT landscapes in your respective countries. So for the next 10 minutes, I would like us to, let's say, travel to Sweden, in our minds at least, virtually, to the far and cold north of Europe. And Sweden is a little bit of a lonely country up there in the north. We're just 10 million people, and it's, as mentioned, quite cold and harsh winters. And I think just that history has forced us to maybe think and create a little bit differently than other countries. If we go to the next. So Sweden, or actually Stockholm, is sometimes called the unicorn capital of the world, with actually the highest density of unicorns per person anywhere in the world outside of Silicon Valley. And I think many of you maybe recognize the names such as Spotify or Skype, maybe even use it today, or played Candy Crush on your way to this seminar, or maybe even during the seminar, which is created by King Entertainment. And it's not a coincidence that these type of companies were created in Sweden, actually, because we have a long heritage of innovation and ways to create new things. And I think maybe the most famous inventor is, of course, Alfred Nobel, the also creator of the Nobel Prize. And I think since then, more than 100 years ago, I think our industry and technology has always tried to push the boundaries for new ways of thinking and new ways to innovate. And these are some of the rankings. I know my colleagues from Netherlands shows also a few rankings. Maybe we're in different places, different sources. But in anyway, I think in most of the rankings that we see globally, Sweden actually stands out. One of the most important ones for this seminar is, of course, connectivity and ICT readiness, where Sweden in many rankings is in top of the world. Also, as I mentioned, innovation, maybe top places in Europe and top places globally. But as investors, I know some of you here also investors, of course, important to understand that Sweden is also a quite transparent and with a stringent government policy that is clear to follow, which also makes it quite an attractive investment climate for international investors. Okay. So who is then investing in Sweden? I think many other countries have already realized that Sweden is actually a promising investment landscape. And of course, our friends and neighbors from the other countries are our top investors in Sweden, with Germany being the largest one in Europe, quite naturally. But also actually the US, even though it's far away, is actually the single largest investor in Sweden. Asia is a little bit behind, but catching up, I would say. And in recent 10 years, we've been seeing a tremendous growth of investments from Asia, and in particular China. And on the bottom of this chart, unfortunately, we can see Taiwan, which with yet to date quite small number of investments in Sweden. I would, of course, invite our Taiwanese colleagues here to increase this number next time I stand on this stage. Yeah. Okay. These are some of our friends from Poland shared some of the data center experience, and also from other countries. And of course, Sweden also have a data center offer, and more or less all the major big US tech firms have invested in data centers in Sweden. We also have recently high profile, I would say it's one of the world's most advanced lithium-ion battery production facilities for automotive batteries, which is in north of Sweden. Together with our friends from Germany, the Volkswagen Group. And so why would you put data centers and battery production in far north of Sweden, where it's minus 20 degrees in the winter? Well, I think these are some of the reasons. We have more or less 100% clean energy in Sweden. So if you're a sustainable, responsible company and think about the environment, and we know that data centers is hugely energy consuming, this makes Sweden an attractive destination, of course, in line with also some of our Nordic friends. So we basically completely phased out fossil fuel for our electricity or energy production. We also have, of course, the high-end connectivity, ICT connectivity and infrastructure, as well as, of course, a talented labor pool, as we see in other European countries. So these are some of the main reasons that we see these huge investments in recent years in northern Sweden. Yes. So I wanted to share, let's say, some secrets of why Sweden maybe ranks very high up in these rankings that we saw earlier. And I think that the chart to the left in terms of R&D spending is maybe one reason. We do invest very heavily in research and development in Sweden. We're top in the EU, at least from this source, and also one of the top in the world. But I think maybe the figure in the middle is more important than the data to the left. And this is building on what my colleague from Netherlands shows. I think innovation and collaboration goes extremely close in hand. You cannot have one without the other in one sense. And this is truly how we try to work in Sweden, also with the triple helix approach, to create synergies between what's done in the academic sector, what's done in the industry, and with, of course, the support from the government. And the sectors that we do this within includes then life science and biotech, transport and automotive, smart industry or industry 4.0, and green tech or renewable technologies. But I would say all of these industries are now going digital, which means that the ICT is more important than ever as a backbone serving all of these main industries in Sweden. So why do I say that ICT is the backbone from this industry? So we see these on the right-hand side, the key industries in Sweden, and some of these global companies that you might recognize. And these are actually drivers for the ICT development. So without the needs from companies such as SKF or ABB on the smart factory side, the Swedish ICT landscape wouldn't develop. And without the needs of smart and connected vehicles by Volvo and Scania, it's the same there. We wouldn't have the same developed 5G technology that we have today. So the ICT sector backbone and the industry sector works very closely together in Sweden. Okay. And I wanted to deep dive a little bit on the auto tech and smart mobility. And I know this is a very hot topic for Taiwan. And this is also a very hot topic and focus for the Swedish government. So we actually believe that in order to enable autonomous vehicles, safety is the #1 priority. No one would ever ride an autonomous car without feeling safe. And we believe that with the history from Autoliv, with the history from Volvo Cars, and also ICT companies such as Ericsson, we're probably the #1 place in the world to develop smart and safe automotive or autonomous automotive solutions. And this is all right now happening in Gothenburg in the west of Sweden, which is also home to the Volvo Group. And I think you recognize these automotive companies such as Volvo or Scania, but I think more and more automotive is becoming about the connectivity. So we also have new companies such as Sinuity up there, which is developing software for autonomous vehicles, which is actually a co-creation project from the industry and academia. We also have Einride, which is, I would say, far ahead of Tesla when it comes to autonomous and electric trucks, which already has a commercial collaboration with German company Schenker. So they're running commercial autonomous trucks on the road today. You could even drive the truck sitting in Sweden and drive around the truck in Taiwan through the 4G and 5G network. So this is already happening in Sweden today. And I think to show support from the government, in Western Sweden, we established a full-scale autonomous vehicle park. I know you all have one in Tainan coming up right now, or it's being established. Something similar, but on a bigger scale. We have cities, we have high-speed roads, so it's a huge area where different, both domestic and international companies can try different solutions when it comes to autonomous vehicles. Okay. Another area I wanted to touch upon a little bit is the smart manufacturing and the IoT for manufacturing. And I mentioned a little bit this before. We have a very strong industrial sector in Sweden, and with the elderly population and with the needs to become more automated, they are also pushing the sub-suppliers for IoT solutions within the manufacturing industry. So this is also major development that we see is driving, but I'd also say that Swedes are quite open to having a connected home or having a connected car, and this is also driving the development. So we have, for example, solutions now. You can do e-commerce in Sweden, and the goods will actually be delivered to your car. So the delivery person has a connectivity to your Volvo car and can open the trunk of your car and put the goods in your car instead of going to your home. So these types of solutions are being developed right now. Okay. Another buzzword I would say is AI, which we're also with other European countries working quite a lot on. I would say a lot of the AI solutions are not really commercial yet, but of course, what's most prominent now in Sweden is specifically within autonomous vehicles, which we touched upon before. And there is now one of Europe's leading research projects on AI established by the Wallenberg Foundation, which is a project of $630 million, where we also invite foreign and other players to co-create and co-innovate within the areas of AI. Okay. So for the last 8 to 10 minutes, I've been sharing a little bit about the Swedish ICT and innovation landscape, and I hope this has served a little bit as an inspiration, so a first touch of Sweden. And I think no matter if you're interested in kind of the data center or battery opportunities in the far north, as I would discuss before, or the fintech or ICT clusters in Stockholm, or the smart mobility and autonomous vehicles in Gothenburg, or the medtech and biotech clusters in the southwest, I think Sweden can offer something for everyone. Okay, I think the next, yeah. And now, of course, it's COVID times, so it's a little bit difficult to travel to Sweden. But as soon as this situation is over, we would, of course, like to welcome you to EU and Sweden and collaborate together for a more innovation future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monson. Please return to your seat. 我们刚才听完欧盟代表介绍各国的情况，相信现在大家对于欧盟的资通讯环境有了更深入的了解。那听完了欧盟，现在呢，我们就要邀请台湾的企业代表来现身说法。易光在欧洲深耕有多年的经验，包括参与智慧城市，在当地设点、争取计划，都是一步一脚印，累积了现在的成绩。接下来就让我们邀请易光智能科技股份有限公司总经理是徐锡川协理来分享台湾企业在欧洲经营拥有哪些优势以及遇到哪些挑战。Next, please welcome Mr. Xu Xitran, Senior Director of GM Office, Everlight Intelligent Technology Company Limited, to talk about the challenges and opportunities in the European market. 谢谢。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is my honor to be invited to this platform to share the Everlight experience in the European and other experience in the world. Okay, my name is Richard Xu, Senior Director in the Everlight Intelligent Technology. Okay, let me quickly introduce the Everlight. Everlight is founded in the 1983. IPO in 1997 in the Taiwan stock market. We focusing on the optoelectronics, that means LED design manufacturers over the 30 years. Our headquarters is located in New Taipei City in Taiwan. We have over 6,000 employees in the world. There are 5 plants in the world, 2 in China, 3 in Taiwan. We still keep the most jobs opportunity in Taiwan. Okay, this is Everlight integrated from the upstream to the downstream in the industry. Everlight is focusing on the LED component and the module. We also invest chip manufacturer and work closely in the chip manufacturer, Teco, Epistart. We use the LED in a different application like mobile, automobile, and then the TFT application or 3C, ICT different application. Since 2010, there's we call the LED revolution. So the world start use the LED in the lighting industry. So at that moment, we create we use in Everlight as the brand to get involved in the lighting business. So we manufacture and sell the lamps and the luminaires in the world. We also merged the one German company since 2014. This old, it's like the 16 years old companies. We call the UFI. It's focusing on residential luminaires in the German and the European. Since 2014, we start to developing our service and integrated in the platform for the smart city. I will introduce more detail later. This is our capacity for the LED components. We manufacture over 6 billion per month to different applications. This is our global network, including the sales office and then some kind of factories in the world, including the American states, European, Middle East, Central Asia, and East Asia. Everline right now is the number 6 in the LED industry. Market share is 6.2% in the world. That's focusing on the smart city because we have already worked for the component over 30 years, including a lot of the global global countries, global companies. But the smart city will be right now is the most potential opportunity and exciting business in the world. Maybe it will continue for over 20 or 30 years later. So I will show some concept of the smart city and which we have already some project in the world. This is an application for a smart city. Smart cities will get involved a lot of the different applications, including the energy, transportation, government management, healthcare, smart living, environment, monetary, education, and architecture, everything. What the smart city is so exciting and related to a lot of the different application field. Then we see how the smart city working. In the past, there's a lot of the device and the equipment and the facility in the world. We minimize that's one and then put more computing efficiency there. Right now go through and integrated IoT solutions and then put this information, all the different equipment and device information through the IoT and then to the platform. And then the manager or like a client can use the platform to get the information real times from the different equipment. So to make all the city, we call like the MI, like the international, information together. So basically the structure and the schematics like this one device in the past, that's very stronger for the Taiwanese companies, device equipments. We're also very strong for the gateway, that means the ICT, the industries. And then right now the integrated the platform to provide the client or like the city or like the management, more like the manager tools to control and monitor the device. So why the Everline will get involved in the smart city? Because we, as I mentioned before, we manufactured up to the LED component before and get involved in the street line and the lamps since 10 years ago. And then right now we combine the ICT technology together and then provide more service and including the platform to our client. So street line, combine the sensor and go through the 5G, 4G, IoT signal to the platform. So we are not the only to provide the efficiency LED solution. We also provide like the manager and the platform the functions to our client, including like the map to show where's the street light. Also the diagnosis go through the sensor with the street light. Also we can calculation the status of the energy saving, everything. And we have the pre-alarm for the street light. So that's the smart cities concept, and then really the applications in the world right now. Okay, so we also can use like the app to inform our contractor to fix the street light, to shorten the broken time. Okay. So we also use this one to combine the transportation. So because the city, where's the most facility in the city except the car. The second one is the pole. So the second one like street light pole. So this is a really experience in Taiwan right now. In Taipei City, has already combined the surveillance cameras and penetration signals and the street light, everything there. Okay. So we also have some technology to put a sensor in the parking lot and go through the signal goes through the street lights and then pass to the platform. You can easier to control and get the client or the customer can get the information in a cell phone. Okay, that's the demonstration. Let's go. We also get involved in the monitor system, environment monitoring system. Okay, so idea is the same. The air pollution right now is maybe like the priority in the city everywhere. So we can put like the air quality monitor sensor in the street light or street pole because there's a lot existing street pole there. So once you put it there, you can monitor in the city different area. And then we also can put like a micro weather station in the pole and get the information to our platform. Let's go. Oh, this is another application. So sometimes in the block there's integrated different. We can put like the panel or like the information treat the street light pole as like the information station. Okay, this is really installation in Taiwan. Okay. Okay, then this concept and the street light and the smart city for the Everlight in Taiwan, and later I will introduce some of our prior projects in the European. First one is Poland. Okay, this is our showcase in the classroom. Okay, we put the smart. Not street light, not LED street light only. We put the smart LED street light in the classroom. We also provide the platform to the city, okay, to get the information and energy saving rate histories and calculate status for the city for the reference, for maybe for the future for the big data for the analysis. Okay, this is the real case in the classroom. This is before installation. This is the after installation. Is bright. Okay, this is the team. Why I introduce this as the first experience in a European course? Okay, because this is the combined different organization. Because once we get involved in the smart city, you cannot work alone because your client is the city. So another, we need to co-work with the contractor in the city. As the speaker in Poland mentions, Poland is very strong for the software. So in this case, we work with the HGH University. They provide the AI solution to save more money, more energy. We also work with the ICT and then the GTPO to us like the connection between the ICT, HGH, and Everlight. We also have the funding for this project. This is a quite successful pilot project in Poland. Okay, combine the Taiwanese research abilities and then also combine the software in Poland. Yes. We call the smart city. Why the street light will be successful in the smart city right now? Because we call this is the ESCO model. You know when the government invents the smart city, first one is need money. But money is key issue in every city, no matter in Taiwan, state, European. Because when you need to invest, you need the money first. But the streamline is a good opportunity to implement in the smart city application, because the LED streamline can save money first compare the traditional streamline. So we use this saving as like the invest to the smart city or smart streamline. So this is the model we call the ESCO model. Why we focusing on the European? Because as the speaker mentioned in the morning, European pursue high efficiency, high technology, more green energy in the city. So European area respect highest efficiency. That is a good opportunity for Taiwan, because Taiwan is has the higher technology. We don't need to get involved like the only cost. Okay, this is another showcase in Europe. This is another second experience which I will share today. We also work with the EBRD. EBRD is the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. We work with the bank. As I said, the smart city need the fund, need the money, need the investment. European EBRD is established in 1991 to help the European unit to neighbor country and then the country to pursue the more modern facility. So they have the project for the green energy field. They have the project for that. They have special project to fund if the city has this plan. So that's why we work with the EBRD. So I will introduce the different business model later. For example, like Central Asia in Kazakhstan. This is the city we have already worked with the city. We call the PPP business model. P is the public, and the second P is the private, another is the partnership. So public government, that means the city government, and then provide the equipment like street light or like a traffic facility to us, and then we establish the modernization street light and smart and more efficient street light to help the government save the more money. This money will pay back by the certain years in the future. But at the beginning, we still need to invest. So we use the EBRD funding to borrow the money to invest first and get the money back. This is the first one. So this is the showcase in before, and we also built the dispatch room in the city. This is another model. We not always loan the money from the EBRD. Sometimes the government loan the money from the bank or from the EBRD. We attend, we join and win the project and then the installation and take a maintenance job. Okay. I also show some case in the neighborhood Europeans, including the Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Okay, why I show this case in Central Asia and Saudi Arabia? That's just want to show Everline Streamline has already approval from the coast area in the world and the highest area in the world. Okay, this show our quality and reliability. Okay, this is a case in Jordan, Saudi. Okay, Everline, the intelligence technology can provide the service from the design stage to the to be the contractor and the OMMs. We have a different business model for the city request, like the Netherlands, because this is Taiwan most stronger advantage ability for the Taiwanese company. So we have the different business model to suit the different cities requirement in the different country. We also co-work with the like financial system, financial institutes to get the financial support. We also work with the different technology institute to get the more advanced technology. We open the work with the different company. This is what everyone can work for the different cities in the foreign country. We also joined and welcome to the work with the local partner, including the software compound partner and contractor or like law firms to get the more tender in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we would like to move on to the panel discussion. So we would like to welcome back our panelists to the stage. 那接下来呢，我们将进行我们的专题讨论。So we would like to welcome back Ms. Paquinat from France, Mr. Foy from Luxembourg, Mr. Chen from the Netherlands, Mr. Skamkowski from Poland, Mr. Manson from Sweden, and Mr. Xu from Taiwan. Please come back to the stage. Our panelists， 我们现在邀请我们的语坛人，麻烦请回到讲台。让我们也再次邀请我们这个场次的主持人，台湾区电机电子工业同业工会李诗清理事长 ，and also welcome back to the stage our moderator, Mr. Richard Lee, Chairman of TIMA。好，现在我们就把时间交给主持人。Now we would like to head over the microphone to the moderator, Chairman Lee. The floor is yours.
Oh, so this one? Okay, good. Yeah, sorry. Well, thank you so much to all the speakers from 5 member states and Mr. Xu from Taiwan for their very informative and encouraging presentations. Before we start the panel discussion, I would like to welcome Mr. Guido Thielman, representative of the Netherlands, Office of Taipei. And there will be also, again, 3 panelists join us from via WebEx. Sorry. So let's begin with our first question. I would like to take this sequence. The question will be answered, first of all, from Mr. Guido Thielman, the Netherlands, and then followed by the Vought Vanson from Sweden, and Mrs. From the WebEx, Mrs. Veronique Pequignon from France, and Mr. David Foy from Luxembourg, and also Mr. Grzegorz Stokieski from Poland. So the question for the 5 speakers, the first question will be, following the technology trend of ICT industry, 5G, AI, big data have become an important issue for the industry development strategy. So there will be 2 questions. First one is, what is the industrial and digital development strategy in your own country? The second one will be, what is your strategy for enhancing cooperation in the EU single market and international corporations? Let's start with Mr. Guido Thielmann. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's really good to be here. I kind of feel overwhelmed in this company of all sorts of specialists. I also told my colleagues when I was actually preparing this weekend, and I got to know that I was supposed to speak about ICT. I didn't even know what a semiconductor was. So I went onto Wikipedia and I looked at Wikipedia to see what is a semiconductor, and I still don't really understand what it is. So I do feel that I'm kind of out of my depth. If you look at the Dutch ICT strategy, then you see that over the last few years, we've had two very important landmark documents, if you will, and those are the digitization strategies. Many of the things that have already been said today are also encapsulated in our digitization strategy, but I think it's important to maybe point out a few of the priorities that we have. Obviously, as the Netherlands, we want to remain a front-runner technologically, and I think that also goes for all the other countries here. Various technologies we're talking about: artificial intelligence, big data, photonics, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, quantum technologies, blockchains. Again, a lot of concepts, a lot of technologies that I don't really understand, but the Netherlands is already a front-runner in many of them. Needless to say, if we look at companies like ASML, also very famous and very successful here in Taiwan. ASML is one of the companies that really shows where we are standing in terms of being a front runner. The second ambition that we have in our digitization strategy is inclusiveness. And that is something that we haven't been speaking about too much today, inclusiveness, meaning that, you know, technology is advancing. And what we need to avoid in our societies is that you have a divide between the digital haves and the have-nots, if you will. So the Dutch government is putting a lot of emphasis in also strengthening skills development and also trying to make sure that each and everybody within society can jump onto the digitization train, if you will. We leave no man and no woman behind. So that's very important. The third ambition is also that the digital environment under which we're working should be trustworthy and should be resilient. So that's also a very important issue nowadays when you know that the integrity of networks sometimes is under attack. So the resilience and the trustworthiness of networks is also a very important point. Alex did a really good job in explaining what the Dutch strategy is. So in that respect, I don't think I have much to add anymore. What I do think where the Netherlands stands out is indeed the triple helix. And I'm really sorry, Vlad, because I thought that the triple helix was something that was particularly Dutch, but apparently also in Sweden, where you have a triple helix. But this cooperation between the government, also the cross-departmental cooperation amongst various agencies and ministries in the Netherlands is very strong. This digitization agenda that I just mentioned is not something that is being driven only by one ministry, but is driven by the whole, let's say, ministries that we have. So it's a very inclusive approach. And you also see that inclusive approach on the ground. I really liked the example that Alex also mentioned of ASML, stating that ASML is actually only one company, but it's 200 companies. And if you want to break down the entire machines that they have into the smallest part, you will find out that you cannot actually duplicate it. So this cooperation between companies, ecosystems, but also the cooperation between the government and the corporate sector is extremely important. Now that is your first question. Do you want me to go into the second question immediately, or? Okay. The EU, Philip, I hope you're listening. The Netherlands obviously is a very loyal member of the European Union. We're also a very staunch supporter of European integration. I think that if you look at the importance for the ICT sector, but also for the digital economy, then I think there are two things where Europe is really important. One is the market. I think that Philip today mentioned already that we have a market of approximately 450 million people. Most of them, all of them on average, are pretty affluent. So we have a very strong internal market. Now, the internal market for digital services needed to be built up, and that's a process that started approximately 20 years ago, and there's still a few missing pieces within that internal market for digital services. For example, privacy is something that's extremely important. There, we already have legislation in place. We are still looking for legislation in the field of what are we going to do with those digital companies that are not paying taxes within the European Union. So that is something that we're also looking at. I also think that the Commissioner Breton will come out very soon with a Digital Services Act, whereby responsibility for digital service providers are also going to be put at those digital service providers themselves. So this internal market is extremely important, and I think it's also a very important point of attraction for foreign companies, including Taiwanese, to look at the European market. The second element is the research and development that we do. Now, you have many top-notch European companies or organizations like ESA. In space, you've got Aerobus, and all of them obviously need ICT support. They need the support of technology in order to be able to produce their products. At the same time, the fundamental research that is done by these companies also creates spin-off, which allows Europe as a whole to retain, let's say, a cutting edge when it comes down to technology. Lastly, the European Union is also investing quite a lot in ICT and in digitization as a whole. The new financial framework, I believe, has approximately 8 billion euros allocated to digitization. So that's quite a lot of money. And there are various projects within the so-called Europe Horizon, I forget, the program whereby many other companies from countries like Taiwan can also participate. So I think that the point of attraction is the market and the research that is being done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thurman. I know he just came to Taiwan about 2 months. I saw that you have been here for 2 years. Yeah, talking about the Netherlands, the people here, the most familiar are Philips. But now we are talking to the new name called the ASML. It's much difficult to to memorize, but this name will start being more popular. Just invest quite aggressively in Taiwan to support our semiconductor industry, particularly TSMC. So for that, we thank you.
Yeah.
And also through the presentation of Mr. Eric Chen about the Triple Helix Corporation, that was we talked when I met you in your office. The cooperation between governments, university, and industries, that's something we need to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last but not least, it's a brain-pod ironform. That's a very unique terminologies. We hope that we can have the brain-pod Taiwan. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Benson. I thought he was Superman Jr. Right? Handsome.
Thank you for that introduction, Chairman Lee. So first of all, I think I was as surprised as you about the triple helix, but I guess great minds think alike there. So, and I think to build on a little bit what you mentioned in the digital strategy of Netherlands and how we see in Sweden, I think I liked your point about inclusion, and I think this is a very important area, and I think already 20 years ago, Sweden had a strategy to basically connect every home with high-speed fiber internet. And I think our more as a clear vision for digitalization, that was a very important point. Because if people don't have access to high-speed internet today, you don't have access to the world. I think the plan is to 2025 that every household should be connected to fiber, so 100%. We're almost there, but we're a big country, so there's a lot of remote areas as well. Today, although, as you mentioned, Chairman Lee, there's these areas as 5G, AI, and other topics, so it's not about connecting fiber to your home anymore. It's much more complex than that. So in 2017, Sweden set up a National Council for Digitalization to support the development within these sectors. And there's 5 key pillars in that. So the first one is about the competence and the education. So we need to have digital literacy among our population. The second one is the innovation. We also actually have a Digital Council for Innovation. This is really at the core of Sweden. And the second was about digital security, and a lot of the speakers was mentioning this today. I think in today's world, without the security aspect, you can't have a digital world. And then the infrastructure, the connectivity that we touched base upon. And lastly, digital management and e-government, where Sweden tries to kind of push the boundaries in that and facilitate so you can do most kind of government operations in the digital space. So I think those are the main key strategic areas that we work about. And then for the EU collaboration, it's certainly not my key area of expertise, but I would say that Sweden is, of course, very well integrated with the EU, just as Netherlands is, and we're a small nation, very export dependent, and the single market for us is extremely important, as EU is by far Sweden's largest export markets. And that also means that in order to have a digital single market, so to say, we need to push the boundaries within that, which includes cross-border e-commerce. It includes, let's say, fintech solutions that can be applied across the countries. Today you have cross-border e-commerce, but you have completely different ways to identify online. And that's also one area where Sweden tries to look into how to work together with other countries. But I think there's still a little bit to go when it comes to standardized systems and standard ways to act online. But that's one important area for Sweden. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manson. Mr. Manson has been in Taiwan for 2 years. I've been traveling around Taiwan, driving by himself. He found Taiwan is more beautiful than you can expect, right? And also from your presentation, the 7 reasons to invest in Sweden, I found that the one of which was so unique is minimize carbon footprint from operation with low cost for clean and renewable energy. This is one of the 7 reasons to invest in Sweden. I will go with that. And this is so importantly that while we running a business, we also have to protect our environment. So I think that Sweden is one of the good examples for Taiwan to follow. So next, I would like to go to the WebEx to invite Mrs. Veroniki Pekignon.
That's it.
Sorry, before she starts, I knew that she's been to Taipei frequently, almost 5 times a year. And in the presentation, she mentioned that she would hope sooner she could be back. And I also learned that the Grenoble, the area, the region, is a sister city to our Italian city. Yeah, 2 years ago. You cannot believe, this is so well connected, even from so far away. So we welcome you from WebEx, Mrs. Pekignon, please.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks for inviting me. And yes, as you said, there are many connections linking my region and my city, specifically to Taiwan. And currently, actually, Our president of the greater area, the Greater Grenoble, is actually participating per video in a smart city forum in Taoyuan as well. I'm going to more like to illustrate basically what are the local consequences of digital strategy, whether on a European level or a national level in a small city like Grenoble. I'd just like to give an example. First of all, there's a big program in Grenoble in the French Alps, which is related to ST Microelectronics semiconductor unit, which is located very close to the city, and which has been actually financed by Europe as an IPCEI, which is an important project of common interest for Europe. So there's there's really a huge investment by Europe. Then this investment is also leveraged with a national important investment as well. The national French state has also pitched in to really to carry on this project. And then this is all matched also at a regional level as well as on a local level. And so this means in Grenoble we have a factory with more than almost 5,000 people working on components, and especially dedicated to, you mentioned the energy aspect. And the specialty, I think, in Europe is very keen on this, is really how to make our digital world less energy, with less energy footprint. And that's really one important thing. So this is really one illustration of how you can combine European priorities with also a bottom-up approach coming from the region and from the local actors. And also I was very happy to hear my colleagues mention several times the triple helix, because that's really one very important pillar of the strategy, and especially in the digital world, but also throughout the industry, is having the different stakeholders, whether it's academia, whether it's the industry, the SMEs, the startups, and the global accounts, and the research institutes, all working together with the national and local government, and then coming up with new initiative and with new innovation. And that's really, I think, one key point in Europe, and that's something that Jurong is very keen on insisting upon, and that has been really carried on in our region for quite a long time. And I remember we had very early on, for example, exchanges with the high-tech and what's now high-tech NL initiative in the Netherlands, for example. And I remember we had quite a lot of delegations coming over to really to work together on this triple helix strategy. So that's really one important point. One other initiative I want to point out in the strategy is also one key point that's very important in Europe as well is the artificial intelligence initiatives, with the French government deciding to support heavily for artificial intelligence research centers in France, and making sure that we have the talents in the future years to come, because that's really one key point that I'd like to mention is, and I know that Europe is also very, very keen on financing and on supporting this, is really having young people, or even also other people coming from other sectors, being able to address artificial intelligence at all levels, whether from the primary education, so making sure that we have enough kids actually choosing the curriculum of artificial intelligence, but also making sure that people coming from different industries, from chemical industries, for example, from I don't know, manufacturing, all the different manufacturing industries, embracing all this artificial intelligence and making sure it's completely integrated. And also one important point too is making sure, as I was mentioning in my presentation as well, that the general population also is actually able to understand and to embrace it. And that's a very important societal challenge. I think throughout the world we can see that a lot of people have trouble sometimes understanding the digital issues, and this can lead to to social unrest or to other social problems. So I think that's also one very important point to address.
Oh, thank you so much to Mrs. Piquignot from Grenoble, Alpes of France. Next, let's go to Mr. David Foy from Luxembourg. Please, Mr. Foy.
Good afternoon from Luxembourg. It's a real pleasure to be here. If I understood the question rightly, you're looking into how our digitalization strategy is actually put into place. One of the things from Luxembourg is that we're very lucky in that it's a very small country, which makes us very agile. The flip side of that is that we don't really have a domestic market. Outside of financial services, there's a very limited domestic market, which makes it a fantastic place to come and test products, certify products, in order to sell them outside. So what we look at is to enable companies to come to Luxembourg, either to provide high-value, high-end solutions to the local market, or using Luxembourg as an entry point into Europe. Putting in place those infrastructures, obviously we spoke about that slightly during my presentation. So it's really the data centers, it's the connectivity, but it's also enabling innovation by providing data and providing ways of consuming that data. So when we look at regulation, one of the big points of regulation that we're going through at the moment is how to share data in a safe and reversible way, and putting in a regulation framework around that. Again, looking at the greater region, which we see more as our marketplace rather than Luxembourg, the greater region taking in parts of Germany, France, and Belgium. Regulation again comes very much into this. We spoke about our test environment for autonomous driving. And one of the key points of this is cross-border regulation. What happens to the regulations of something that is being controlled by artificial intelligence or machine intelligence once it crosses a border? Now, I realize in Taiwan you don't really have that issue, but in Luxembourg, if we drive 10 minutes in any direction, we're in a different country. And I think in Europe in general, once you start moving, you're in a different country. So Luxembourg is seen very much as a neutral environment, which again is why the Space Resources Program came in. When that was first announced some years ago, people said, what is Luxembourg doing in space? What, space mining? Really? What's going on? But part of that also, and again, a big part, is the regulation of how to police, if you like, the parts of space resources. Who does it belong to? If you spend so much money going up to an asteroid, what are you going to do with it when you come back? So that's one thing. In order to kind of head this all up, we recently created the Ministry of Digitalization, which overlooks the whole of the transformation, if you like, part of the exercise. So today, it's very much using Luxembourg as an environment to come, test, certify, get the stamp, if you like, to sell into Europe. And we're really putting the pieces of the puzzle in place today: infrastructure, soft skills, and also addressing the digital divide that is happening today. Technology is going so fast, and we don't want anybody to be left behind. There are several projects specifically with younger teenagers, extracurricular activities, but also at the university level. So it's really addressing every part of the digitalization journey. Excuse me. Just one thing I'd like to point out before I hand over. There's two young ladies in the front row with white shirts on, Tanya and Sophie, if you can wave your hand. That's our representatives from the Trade and Development Office. So please go and see them. They're wonderful people and they'll be able to help you out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foy. You know, we are now in the physical and virtual world. So Mr. Foy is too humble to say that Luxembourg is small, which is only physically. But virtually, Luxembourg is very big. What I know is Luxembourg, small but smart Luxembourg, will strive to become the most trusted data economy within the European Union by 2023, right? And also the Luxembourg has a very strong cyber ecosystem. Last year, 2019, 304 companies were active in cybersecurity in Luxembourg. Wow. So let's welcome Mr. Grzegorz Stokowski from Poland.
Good afternoon, greetings from Poland. As regards digital development strategy, the industrial and digital development strategy is reflected in the number of strategic documents of Polish governments, such as Strategy of Responsible Development of Poland, the 5G strategy, and National Broadband Plan. These documents contain measures aimed at facilitating the digital transformation in Poland, which shall include areas like building the infrastructure required to ensure wide access to high-speed internet to all Poles, and effective and user-friendly e-services, and constantly growing level of digital competence of the society, as was mentioned before. To realize the strategic goals, Poland is implementing a 5G network, removing all the barriers to development of e-commerce in Poland. And strategic development program emphasize on industry technologies, industry technology needs, such as automation, robotization, and digitalization of business processes. Strategic projects cover, among others, telemedicine, electromobility, which is very strong in Poland, and smart transport system, as it was already mentioned on the presentation. Artificial intelligence, big data, along with IoT, 3D printing, cloud services are preferred solutions for the industry. And of course, as regards broadband, Poland National Broadband Plan foresees that 100 of our households should have access to internet connectivity, and 50% of the households should have internet connectivity of 100 megabytes per second till end of this year. As regards enhancing cooperation in the EU single market and international cooperation, our strategy, basically Polish Investment and Trade Agency, results from the role which we play in the Polish market. We actively support international cooperation of Poland in trade and investments. We help local businesses as well in international expansion and foreign investments, as well in assisting all investment projects. We have strong global exposure thanks to our wide international network of over 60 trade offices established all over the world, including Taiwan. So I invite to our office and Chief Mrs. Michalina Jędrzejczyk for cooperation. And we do hope that by this we effectively and locally can address all the business needs of Polish and international partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stokowski. So in Mrs. Stokowski's presentation, I found the top 3 sectors which is new potential investments in Poland. The first one is BSS, which stands on Business Support System. Then the second one is e-mobility. And the third one is automotive. That requires, of course, the very strong software capabilities. So we just complete the first question. With time constraint, we'll go to the third one, right? And this time, we'll take the reverse term. We'll start from the WebEx, start from the Mrs. Peggy-Yont, and then followed by the other three on the WebEx, and then come back to the physically to the two representative here. The question on the last question for the panel discussion is, Taiwan is a very important partner of ICT manufacturing in the world, especially in hardware and semiconductor. On the other hand, EU member states are much more competitive, for instance, in terms of services and software. What is your the member states' future cooperation strategy in Asia while facing the cross-field needs of future technology appliances? So this is a question. Let's go start with Mrs. Peggy-Yont of France, please.
Hello. So this is quite a tricky question, actually, because you know the connection between our region also in Taiwan is because we have a lot of semiconductors as well, and there's a lot of existing cooperation between our industrial stakeholders and Taiwanese stakeholders as well. Lots of our companies have foothold in Taiwan, ST Microelectronics for a start, but a lot of all other very much smaller companies as well. We also have our research organizations also have early on identified Taiwan as a key site for the technologies they are interested in. So I know there's been some cooperation also between LETI, the CE LETI, which is the research organization on microelectronics, and ITRI as well as III, for example. So there's already ongoing cooperation. But of course, nowadays, this has become very complicated because of the, first of all, the economic warfare between the US and China. So our actors and yours as well are just caught in the middle of this commercial war. So we have to really find ways to go around it and still stay very competitive. And also because of the COVID has made European stakeholders very conscious about how they need to be probably more self-sufficient on a lot of, not only on the software aspect, not only the design, but also the manufacturing. So this is really, I would say, a key moment probably for this kind of questions. I'm not qualified to really argue and decide, you know, what's going to be best. What I can say is basically it's definitely a European strategy. That a lot of things can only be done on European level, that's for sure. And all the actors in my region, whether they are from the industry or whether they are from the research or the education, really agree on this. And so basically that means supporting our champions. I was mentioning the projects of the common importance for Europe. Also making what could be said that were like some weaknesses in Europe, saying that Europe, you know, is very keen on data safety, and very keen also on very keen on having very strict regulation on the environmental products as well, just making these our forces, because I think this is really the public and people are going to really pay a lot of attention to this. So this means that we have to really check that our industries comply with the environment, with the energy transition. And I would say one key strategy is really making sure that our electronics digital industry is energy efficient and energy frugal. So this would be probably, and this is really something that we just tend to support locally. But as I said, it's got to be a European strategy. And we definitely are at a really key moment in what we're going to do with all of this. And I don't really have any definite answer to this question. I know that we have to address it collectively, that's for sure, and to address it as a European partner, but also continuing the fact that it's a global industry as well.
Thank you to you, Mrs. Polkigott. Let's go to Mr. David Foy from Luxembourg.
Yes, I agree very much with what you have to say, Veronique. I also am not very qualified to speak on this subject. However, what I can say is that the Luxembourg economy is very much based on service provision. So there's a lot of IT integrators providing IT and related services to the community here. Following the last EU Investment Forum last year, we managed to make contact with several Taiwanese hardware manufacturers, chipset manufacturers, and we have discussions going on to integrate them into the services that we're providing. Again, as Veronique says, it's quite a job of making sure that the devices are certified, that they comply to EU regulations. Normally there's no problem, but obviously that needs to be checked as well. Within Luxembourg, we have some semiconductor manufacturing, but again, it's always very high-end, very bespoke applications for that. So yeah, Luxembourg is very much service-based. We don't have very much in the way of component manufacturing, but we are in discussions with various Taiwanese companies to try and get some cooperation there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foy. Next, let's go to Mr. Grzegorz Stokowski from Poland. Mr. Stokowski, please.
Yes. As regards the response, as early as the COVID crisis started, the Polish government launched first measures which are aiming to minimize the influence of the lockdown and disturbance on the world's markets. The fund, which was created to help local businesses who suffered from the crisis, accounts to more than 27 billion US dollar, which equals approximately 4.5% of Poland's GDP, and is mostly released in the form of subsidies for the local operating companies which avoid laying off its employees, up from subsidies for the locally operating companies. Until today, nearly 350,000 companies have received this support from our government, and we already see positive outcomes of our strategy. During the pandemic, the unemployment in Poland raised only by 1%. So that's basically.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Stokowski. Let's come back to the stage. Next will be Mr. Monson.
Thank you, Chairman Lee. So I understand it's a third question in terms of the ICT connectivity between the member states and Taiwan and Asia. And I think this is a very important matter because, I mean, we are here. We understand that it's here that it's happening. It's here that the ICT integration is happening. It's here that the world growth is happening. But sometimes I feel that when I go back to Sweden, and you go to these highly innovative tech startups, they don't think of Taiwan and they don't think of East Asia necessarily. They think of their own home markets and maybe Silicon Valley. And of course, the global Swedish companies already have established supply chains in Asia. Like Ericsson, they have one of 3 global 5G kind of research centers actually here in Taiwan. So they're already on it, but not the small companies. So then what do we do to kind of lift up the opportunities to work more with Taiwan? Of course, our office, together with the regional offices in Sweden, try to promote Taiwan through different events and delegations like this. But it's just a lot of companies to reach out to. So now there is a new initiative from the Nordic countries. We have something that's called the Nordic Innovation House. So far we have established this in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan this year. And I will do my best to also try to create something similar here in Taiwan. And this is basically an incubator for Nordic startups and companies to come to these markets and to get access to the local ecosystems and let's say supply chain within ICT and tech. So I think that could be one important measure to try to connect Sweden and Taiwan more closely.
Thank you, Mr. Munson. Let's go to Mr. Tillman. Yeah, and then Richard, she will be follow you.
Okay. I guess that the Netherlands already has quite a long history when it comes down to working with Taiwan in the field of technology. And I'm going to actually focus my answer not so much on the Asian strategy, but rather on, let's say, what we do with Taiwan. Obviously, everybody here, I hope everybody here knows about the Philips history and also the spin-off that Philips has had in terms of the various companies that are now active in the Netherlands. NXP, ASML has been mentioned, but of course here in Taiwan also TSMC. So I think that we have this historical link working together with Taiwan technology already for, well, at least let's say the last 40 years. I've seen some trade figures, not investment figures, that state that the Netherlands over the last 60, 70 years, since 1952, was the largest investor in Taiwan, cumulatively, which to a very large extent is due to the fact that these technological companies from the Netherlands have invested here. So that's the history. If you look at the strategy that we have right now towards Taiwan is, of course, as Alex also mentioned, is to try and attract cutting-edge technological Taiwanese companies to come to the Netherlands to invest. We spoke about the various ecosystems that we have, Brainport Eindhoven, but also the Security Delta in The Hague, which I think are good sort of places where Taiwanese companies can also do what they need to do. The other way around, Dutch companies are also coming to Taiwan because Taiwan obviously has a very strong manufacturing base. And whilst in the Netherlands, in Europe as a whole, you know, a lot of research and development has been done where we might lack, or let's speak about the Netherlands as such, we may lack in trying to make this translation of technology into marketable and commercializing products. And that's really where Taiwan has a USP. Now, from my office, we obviously also work on trying to promote technological cooperation. We have an innovation department in my office that is focusing on various sectors where we feel there is potential. One of them is photonics, obviously, which is the technology of the future. And we're also focusing on cyber security and cyber technology and artificial intelligence. So across these levels, we try to make the cooperation that we have with Taiwan even more intense.
Well, thank you. So let's go to Mr. Richard Xu for the same question or any comments you can bring to the audience.
I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer these questions, but based on my experience, I think yes, Taiwan is very strong for the manufacturer-based technologies. Also, strong for the manager of the manufacturer or like factories. Of course, right now, so we are a very great job for the high technologies in the field. However, for the software, I think sometimes the software is related to the culture and related really the human behavior. So when we work with like the smart city and work with the service, provide the service for the client, for the local city or clients, definitely we need to work with the local software company to help us to understand the process of the municipalities process and so on. So of course our software, Taiwanese software ability is not too bad, but however we still need to realize or customize based on the real application in the European or every other area. So I think there's still very quite space to cooperate it together and for the certain project. Yes, that's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Richard Xu. So because we started late for 10 minutes, so we still have around 10 to 15 minutes to open for questions from the audience. So let's complete this panel discussion and then open up for questions from the audience.
好，那接下来是我们问题讨论的时间。那有没有任何的问题，欢迎请举手提问。Now we would like to open the floor for questions and comments. Please raise your hand and briefly introduce your name and your organization. Any questions from the floor? Anyone? 好，请我们在座的朋友有没有任何的问题呢？机会难得 ，This is a rare opportunity, so we really encourage you to consult the experts online and here in this venue. So, any questions? 中英文都可以。Please.
I'm Chris Calderon from Tryon Investments, single-family office here in Taiwan. From Europe, though. And my question is about talent. I see the Taiwan government and American Chamber of Commerce and AIT, they're working on a talent circulation alliance. I'm just wondering, because of COVID, we're having a lot of problems bringing talent back and forth to different countries. How does Europe and Taiwan work together to try to develop the talent that's needed for all these top industries, these industries of the future? And how closely can you work with the education institutions in Taiwan, which is, there's many of them here that are looking forward to working with top institutions in Europe. Thank you.
So here physically present and those on the WebEx who want to take on the question. Please, Mr. Tillman.
That's a difficult question. Maybe at a few levels. I think that if you look at the talent development from a Taiwanese perspective, there are already quite a few numbers of Taiwanese students going to the Netherlands, trying to get an education at university, Technical University of Eindhoven, Technical University of Delft. So I guess that people already by their own volition are looking for educational opportunities in the Netherlands, but also in Europe at large. Then at a second level, of course, Dutch companies are also investing in training and education here in Taiwan. Most recently, ASML has opened a training center in Tainan. It was in the news, it's public domain, so I can mention the fact that they invested approximately 12 million euros. So also at a corporate level, there is a lot going on in the field of trying to train people, and it's also a necessity because I guess talent is the scarce resource that will help, as you know, to help companies to retain that technological cutting edge, if you will. Then at the third level, the Dutch Academy for Fundamental Research, I think that's the translation into English. The Dutch acronym will be NWO, is also working together with counterparts here, whereby they look at various technologies like photonics, where together with Taiwanese organizations, they issue common calls for certain solutions in the field of photonics. So there is already this, at that level, also cooperation going on. Yeah, hope that's an answer to your question.
Thank you, thank you. I think Mr. Tillman mentioned the ASML. That's a very good example. They are setting up training center in Thailand, and I hopefully that we can duplicate that. Please, Mr. Manson.
Few points to add. I think this is a very, very important factor, and except for the academic exchange that Netherlands and many other European countries have with Taiwan, which is kind of a natural talent exchange, especially on the technical side. I think we see more and more interest on the research exchange between different research institutes, and I'm sure there's several European countries that have it, but Sweden this year launched a collaboration with the Ministry of Science and Technology. So there's a joint investment of 250 million Taiwan dollars for 10 research projects between Sweden and Taiwan within the areas that we discussed today: 5G, AI, battery technologies. So it's joint research in the two respective countries to work on joint projects. So I think that is a good way to kind of put our heads together. Then I think after 2 years in Taiwan here, I think one challenge with the talent exchange between many European countries and Taiwan is still the language barrier. And then I know this is a national policy that Taiwan is working on to, say, bilingual nations. I think on many levels there is a good level of English here, but I think on other levels, especially let's say on the technical level, engineering level, it's still quite challenging to have that exchange. So I think that's something that I think the Taiwanese government also needs to work on, and I think to the European countries to find ways on how to get around that to still have joint exchange of talents. Yeah.
Thank you, Manson. I think we totally agree with you. We need to work hard with our government, and in the industrial level, we also need to take that issue very seriously. So let's go to the next question. Hopefully, we have 3 participants in the WebEx can answer.
All right, this is TH from Open Knowledge Taiwan, and we work on data governance, data compliance, especially on the policy side. My question is especially about COVID-19, because it's like hitting a break on every exchange of programs among different nations or regions like Taiwan to Europe. I mean, based on your opinion, is it a break for everything, or it could be an accelerator for something much bigger, within your field or experience? Thanks. That's my question.
Thank you. So the question is how much this COVID-19 will impact. So I would hope we have the 3 participants from the WebEx can answer. Could Mrs. Becky Yont, can you answer that question? Do you?
Yes, I could give you some specific examples even, because yes, we cannot hide the fact that COVID-19 has just really just made us change our plans. I was talking in my presentation, we have a soft landing program, and by the way, I'd be very interested to know what Sweden was about, to show that to our entrepreneurs, that it's not only about Silicon Valley or China, but then they have to think of other places. And so we have partnered with Vancouver and Taiwan. And so we are sponsoring 2 entrepreneurs from Taiwan to come over, and 2 entrepreneurs from Vancouver to come over and have a boot camp in our region. And of course, the boot camp was supposed to be live end of November, early December, but obviously for safety, sanitary reason, it's been delayed. So we are switching some of it to online events and sessions, online masterclasses, but of course nothing replaces the immersion experience. So we'll have to postpone some of the events. But I have to say that in some other places that we can still see, we have still applications from entrepreneurs coming from all over the world. And if they have a serious project, I mean, they still come over. We have a Korean company, for example, investing in our region. And the guys came over, and they, of course, they had to go through the quarantine. And when they go back to their country, they have to also have a specific time where they will quarantine. But that's the way it is. And in some other ways, it just allows us to really, I would say, really see who is really committed, and also to be very creative, to be agile. So I think we have not to give up on travels and exchanges and keep on and be very, very agile. And then eventually we'll probably, the project that will come out of it will probably be stronger and we'll just gain more out of it.
Thank you, Mrs. Pigiont. Mr. David Foy, would you like to take that question?
Of course, yes. I think we all are still going through quite a strange period, which is, why the three of us are here on WebEx today rather than having the privilege of being in Taiwan today. I think from one day to the next, people were faced with an issue of how can we continue working? And now there's a lot of companies who are aware of security. You mentioned the 304 cybersecurity companies we have here. So there are people aware of it. There are people there to help, to give consultancy, to give roadmaps in order to secure infrastructure, but they didn't have the time to do it. So a lot of companies had to open up core systems to the internet. People were sitting at home who didn't necessarily have nice fiber connections. We heard about our friend in Poland and Sweden with fiber to the home. We've just recently finished a gigabit to the home project in Luxembourg. But as you saw in the speech that I gave before, we have 200,000 people that come across the border every day. Now, Luxembourg never shut the borders, but France did, and Germany put restrictions. So there was an issue getting people into the office. So we have open systems that are unsecured onto internet. We have talent that can't make it to the office, even if it's considered a critical function. So we're actually going through a process here at Lux Innovation at the moment, an ideation process where we're interviewing local companies to find out what happened, what issues did they come across, what were things that were really stopping the progress of a company. And it comes down to talent and it comes down to security. But it also comes down to visibility. People couldn't contact their clients anymore. People couldn't meet with their clients. Specifically in retail or manufacturing, people couldn't come to those stores. So everybody got round it in some way or another. And there's always a plan B, and you can always put some sticky tape, and it's going to work. But it doesn't mean it's the best way of doing it. So in reply to the question is, that there was an awful lot of disruption for everybody, but I think there's going to be an awful lot of opportunities that are coming out of this. There's going to be some budgets that need to be found to tidy up legacy systems, to undo security breaches. I'm just hoping that people documented what they did do so that they can roll it back again. But yeah, for me, there's going to be a lot of opportunities from this really unfortunate situation.
Thank you, Mr. Foy. Mrs. Stokowski, would you like to also take the question?
Okay. We see also the effect of COVID in our country, of course. We are one of the least affected countries in Europe with a drop of GDP around 4%, comparing to almost double as this value in whole Europe. And we observe, of course, all the phenomena connected to this, like instead of visits in person, we organize visits of our investors on a site virtually. We see some trends in investments like reshoring, like nearshoring. Of course, we may benefit from this fact, and also it creates opportunities. But it changes the rules. As regards large investments, the business goes almost as usual. But for the small and medium-sized businesses, the rules are changed, I think.
Thank you very much. Is there any further questions? Since time is running out, I would like to close this panel to first of all thank you for the physically presented, and also for those three participants from the WebEx. thank you so much for spending so much effort. It's not just 1 hour, 2 hours on the stage or from the WebEx. I think way back 2 months ago that we already started preparing for this. Hopefully, whatever we've been discussing will be very beneficial to the EU and Taiwan relationship and move forward for the future. And I also like to say thank you to the audience. Thank you so much for stay with us for almost 2.5 hours. And particularly, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Philip Gregorjewski, the head of the ETTO, our host. Thank you so much. And I see that there are also the Mr. Patrick Lumba from Czech. And then we have the Mrs. Tania Burchen from Poland, from Luxembourg. And then we have Mr. Baski Ritz from Poland, as well as Mrs. Michalina Jerzyk from from Poland. Hopefully I didn't make any mixed. So ICT, we all know it's information communication technology. But lately, the friends in Taiwan, we start to think maybe we can also find 3 words to present the ICT of the future. The I stands for intelligence, and the C stands for connected, and T, trusted. I think our Minister of Economy and Mr. MOEA, Ms. Wu mentioned about this, trusted. So I think if we can bring information communication technology to the intelligence, connected and trusted, that would help us to think hard from here to the future. How can we accelerate the investment from Taiwan to Europe in particular, and which of course, well, we hope continuous investment from Europe to Taiwan. And for Go Europe, I think that we all know this is the investment forum from EU, and stands very importantly, it's something that we need to think hard, how to diversify our ICT, the future prints, investments, and Europe hopefully will be one of the destination. So I'd like to end this panel by saying the united and supportive EU and member states governments, diverse and dynamic industries, a free and open market, solid and interconnected network, forward-looking regulatory policies. All these features made the EU an irreplaceable destination for investment from Taiwan. Right. Thank you so much for spending all the time with us, particularly for those participants from physically here or from the WebEx. Thank you so much. Have you all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the moderator and the panelists. So we would like to invite our speakers on the stage to have a photo shoot together. So could you please stand up and join? And also Mr. Philip Gregorjewski and Mr. Thomas Jorgensen, please come up to the stage to join the photo shoot. 我们热烈的掌声，再次谢谢主持人跟与谈人给我们这么精彩的对谈，相信大家对于投资欧洲有更深入的了解。那么现在也邀请贵宾一同上台合照。那真的非常感谢今天大家全程参与，从早上到现在的投资欧洲论坛。那下午是我们资通讯产业的分论坛。那经过我们这几轮精彩的讨论，我们的分论坛到此圆满落幕。感谢大家的热情参与，未来也期待台欧盟之间有更紧密的投资关系。So go Europe! Thumbs up！ 爱表加呀！ 那在此也为大家宣传2020台北国际电子产业科技展，还有台湾国际人工智慧及物联网展，会在10月21到23号在南港展览馆举行。我们也欢迎各位朋友踊跃参加。那也提醒大家，经过了疲劳了一天呢，我们在203就在旁边203会议室，我们有比利时的 Happy Hour， 提供了比利时非常著名的啤酒，欢迎大家可以到那边品尝啤酒，喝一杯，放松心情，多多交流。那也提醒大家，如果早上有租借同步口译设备还没有归还的话，也欢迎大家可以归还。So this concludes our ICT session. Thank you very much for your participation. And we would like to remind you that the Taipei International Electronics Show and the Taiwan International IoT Show will take place at the Nangang Exhibition Hall from October 21st to 23rd, and you're cordially welcome. In room 203, there is happy hour.